What's up, everybody? We're back.
Yeah! Hey, welcome back to a Metalhead's Journey. Hey, we're taking a trip back in time. This is another episode of the Metal Time Machine. Dave spun the wheel of doom, of metal. I don't know what we call it. But we spun the wheel and it landed on 1988. Now, obviously, I'm sure there's a lot of good records in 1988, but we saw one band on there that we'd all been kind of interested in checking out for a while, except for Jason, obviously.
Never heard of them.
So we landed on a band called Vio-lence and their actual first record to ever come out, Eternal Nightmare. Now, look, we landed on Vio-lence, obviously, because, again, other than Jason, most of us here are Machine Head fans. And we do know that Rob Flynn and Phil Demmel, this was their band that they were in together before Phil Demmel joined Rob Flynn and Machine Head, right? So I think that was the attraction for us, right? Okay,
Yeah.
great
Yes.
job.
I didn't hear a question, so
I said right. I left it out there for you guys to support me, and you guys let me fall on my face.
hey.
I appreciate it. Well,
Man.
So anyway, we've been waiting to check out Vio-lence, and this was an opportunity to get in there. So, hey, before we jump in here, go ahead and hit the like button, hit the subscribe. Let us know what you think about Vio-lence if you've checked them out in the past.
We're professionals.
Think about them down in the comments. And we'll jump into this to this review here. So the band is Vio-lence. The year is 1988. The album is Eternal Nightmare. Vio-lence, formed in 1985, is an American thrash band from San Francisco. The band is often referred to as one of the big six of Bay Area thrash metal, along with Exodus, Testament, Death Angel, Laz Rocket, I don't know, and Forbidden. Vio-lence has released one EP and 3 studio albums. The lineup used for all 3 studio albums features Phil Demmel and Rob Flynn on guitars, Dean Dell on bass, Perry Strickland on drums, and Sean Killian on, I guess you can call it vocals. Eternal Nightmare, released in 1988, is the band's first studio album. I'm sorry, Dave. Sean Killian did vocals. Okay. Eternal Nightmare, released in 1988, is the band's first studio album. The album was produced by John Cunaberti. I'm not sure. I apologize. The album did not chart, nor did it produce any singles.
Yikes.
That's
shocking.
Is it? I mean, look. Some of the research I did on the band was basically it was the fact that it was a little late to the party. Jason, could you quit coughing on there? God damn. Anyway, it's just that they're late to the party, right? Their first album comes out in 1988, whereas you got like Metallica's 4th album coming out in 1988, right? And I mean,
Megadeth's 3rd.
Rest
in Peace was 2 years later, but you got So Far So Good So What. Sepultura was releasing like the 3rd or 4th in 88. Slayer, Queensryche's Operation Mindcrime came out in 88. Metal had already kind of evolved, like thrash specifically, had already evolved past this. I know Queensryche's not thrash, but I'm just saying albums that came out in 88. Thrash had already kind of moved past this version of it. Had this album come out in 85, 86 when the band formed, I think
maybe they get a foothold in there. Maybe they're a little bit more popular. And look, I mean, it's an interesting sliding door scenario, right? Because if they do get bigger, do we ever get Machine Head?
Depends, right?
Yeah.
Yep. And look, I don't want to live in a world without Machine Head. So
I mean,
I'm glad this happened the way it did. What'd you say, Dave? You said you're logging off. That's good. We don't need to hear from you anymore.
Okay.
And hey, while we're here, let's get into the metal rundown here. Let's jump into musicality of the album. Dave, why don't you go first?
Look, musically, I think this album is really, really good. Surprisingly good. The riffs on here are incredibly strong. I think the bass work, very good. I think the production of the bass on this is exactly what I look for. In terms of the bass sound. But dude, I love the riffs. I think Rob Flynn and Phil Demmel absolutely carry the record. Are some of the riffs like does the songs and riffs kind of bleed into each other a bit? Maybe we could talk about that. But I think absolutely the guitar. I mean, knowing what Phil Demmel and Rob Flynn do later on in Machine Head, it's clear that those two know how to write riffs together, and that's showcased very early on in this record.
Yeah, and I think you get some, like, I think hearing this now after hearing all of Machine Head's catalog, there's a lot of like groundwork here for like future Machine Head songs. Like there's a lot of parts in there that I feel like show up later on that are like pretty normal for Rob Flynn and his riff writing in there. So it's like in certain instances, it's easier to hear, I think, which riffs Rob Flynn wrote versus maybe the ones that Phil Demmel added to the album.
Yeah.
I wasn't able to find like writing credits for the songs, so I was really interested to see, was it Demmel and Flynn on every song, or were they interchangeable? You know, but I was not able to locate that.
Yeah, but overall, like, you know, the guitar work, like the leads and the riffs, I think absolutely steal the show. And like I said, the bass work is very good. The drums are, you know, pretty typical thrash drumming. I don't think the drums really stand out super big for me. And like, I have to talk about the vocals. I think they are kind of the divisive factor. I think if you either like the vocals and or can tolerate them or whatever, but I think that is going to be, I predict, a big hindrance in whether or not you can truly enjoy the record for some people, because it is a very abrasive style of vocal. You know, it's to its credit, it is unique, but you know, it just depends on your personal taste.
Well, how do you feel about the execution of it, though?
Execution wise, I think Sean Killian does exactly what he sets out to do. It's just, you know, that kind of like almost like higher barking, like almost just yelling at you vocals. Again, I think it's a more of a late to the party, because I think this is very characteristic of earlier thrash, which like roots itself in like punk rock. I feel like that's the sound that they're going for here in terms of the vocals. But again, this is 1988, and I'm not Jason, so if I didn't grow up in '88, but I imagine if I did and I was consuming some of the albums that we had already talked about, you know, I feel like I would feel like this is, you know, not quite as advanced as the newer stuff that was coming out.
No, it feels like, to me, it feels like this is like a cut rate Joey Belladonna performance, but I'm talking like from Among the Living, Persistence of Time. Like it's not like his singing style. It's when they tried to make him into more of a thrash vocalist versus a singer, and it's like a diet version of that. Like it's just not good to me, and it's mystifying that you're telling me, because this, look, somebody out there is going to say, you know, just because you can't do it, you know, now you can talk about it. Like, look, dude, we were in a band. We were in a band, and I won't say this very often, but I'm a better vocalist than this guy. Okay?
It's a true story.
It's for real. I'm sorry, it is. But you can't tell me that you're in this band, and like Rob Flynn is sitting right there, and nobody looks at Rob and is like, hey, Rob, you want to do the vocals? Like, how did nobody ever turn to him and do that? Did Sean Killian, like, did he have, like, naked photos of Rob Flynn with, like, somebody he shouldn't be with?
Look, I will say this, you know, playing devil's advocate to what you're saying, Josh, I don't exactly think Rob Flynn has the best vocals in the business either, personally.
I'm not saying that, but who's better between the two?
Look, I've heard Rob Flynn rap, okay? Rob Flynn has some embarrassing vocals himself, okay? So I'm just saying...
Whatever.
I'm just saying, this is 1988. We don't know what 1988 version of Rob Flynn sounded like, okay? Because it sounded like
whatever, dude. Get the clicks over there, bro. Get the clicks. Be the troll. That's okay.
I'm not trolling.
Okay. Adrian, hold on. Jason, shut your face. You don't know anything about Machine Head. Adrian, between the two vocalists, between Sean Killian and Rob Flynn, who would you rather have?
Dude, Rob Flynn, and also fuck both of y'all. I think he's a phenomenal singer.
Who's that?
Rob Flynn. Flynn.
Look, I agree. I think he's a great singer. Dave said he's not the best, and I said I agree he's not the best, but I think he's good.
I think he's one of the best.
I love Rob Flynn. Okay, Jason, go.
Okay, so
we don't care that straight away from high school.
So 88. I was a freshman in high school.
Whoa.
Yep. I'm gonna not take as much time as Dave did for this one little segment.
Wait, you were a freshman in 1988?
Yeah.
I was 3.
I'm old as
I
fuck
was
for a
1.
reason. Anyway, this was not on my radar at all, and probably for good reason. But
Yikes.
doing it today,
Oh
the
shit!
music section of this album is not bad. It's got some very good riffs. It's got some good stuff going on. The problem is, as soon as the vocals kick in, I check out. Like
Hmm.
I will. This is me on every song on this album. Okay, all right, that's good. Oh, I like that. And as soon as the vocals start, and then I'm
All right,
done.
look, I don't like dislike the vocals that much, but
Oh, I do.
What if it was like the Cookie Monster or like
Anything, just anything.
Gollum style vocals? Would you think? Do you think you'd enjoy it more? At least
I could tune it
more
out
than
better.
this.
I probably could tune it
Okay.
out better than this.
okay. But what if it's? Well, Dave brought this up the other day, and I was already thinking it, but it makes a lot of sense. What if it was Tom Araya from Slayer? So what if it's the vocals from Rain and Blood, or the vocalist, obviously?
Well, again, if it's anything to do with something that resembles singing, okay.
No,
This
it's
is
not.
not singing. This is just shouting, screaming into a microphone. It's not even screaming really. It's just yelling.
Okay, so do you hate
Words.
the vocals on Rain and Blood as well?
Pretty much, yeah.
No.
What?
All right.
What?
We'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
What?
Adrian, where are you at
That's the way it
musically?
is.
Hey, I mean, I'm not going to say anything y'all didn't, right? I think the riffs are definitely going to be the best part. The guitar solos are kind of in the kind of goofy realm to me, but whatever. Um, I can tune the vocals out, man. Like they don't bother me. Surprisingly, that it reminds me a lot of Anthrax's first few albums. The singer before Joey Belladonna. Yeah, and I did enjoy hearing like catching the Machine Head isms. Kind of sprinkled throughout the album, throughout the different songs that were played. So that was pretty fun. Speaking of which, moving on to entertainment value, I think the entertainment value for this album is very, very high.
Agree.
My biggest problem with it is, I had this issue with some black metal albums we jammed. Is these songs just kind of bleed into each other? I feel like they don't have their own individual identities, really.
Yeah.
I mean, save like 2 or 3 of them, maybe.
But
Like
if you zonk out for a second and you miss the opening riff of a song or something like that,
yeah,
you'll be 3.5 songs in before you realize, like, oh shit.
right. Yeah, exactly. Like I lost my spot on Spotify for whatever reason, and I'm not gonna know what song I was on. There's no dynamics really at all, but this is like the perfect album to like if this was a set at a show, it would be fucking phenomenal.
Yeah.
If it was you're working out or something like that, it'd be so fucking it's perfect. But there's just I don't know that there's something missing, and I don't know. I can't even tell you what it is. Maybe the vocals could be better, I suppose. It's definitely riff wise and song structure and writing wise, it reminded me a lot of early Slayer, Show No Mercy and Hell Awaits. So I really enjoyed that too. But yeah, no, I think it's a very enjoyable album, but there's something missing that puts it up there for legendary status for me. Like an album that I feel is that I'm reminded of is Exodus, Bonded by Blood.
Yeah, the first album.
Yeah, like that album was fucking great, and it's very similar, but each song has its own identity, in my opinion.
I think
in
that album is executed. It's like a better version of what this is.
Yeah,
And that album came 3 years
Before it.
Yeah, but anyway, that's where I'm at entertainment wise.
Yeah, I mean, the album's a breeze. It's 7 tracks. It's just over 35 minutes. So I mean, it's got that classic thrash, feel to it with a 7 or an 8 tracks album. And I mean, look, it's just, even though some of the songs and the tracks can bleed in together, there's still not bad moments, right? Musically, there's no bad moments. It's a lot of fun going on throughout it. So yeah, entertainment value, while the vocals may be meh, right? The entertainment value of the record, I think, is great.
Jason, where you at on entertainment value?
It's meh for me. Again, the issues are what we've been just discussing. Is that for me, the bleeding together even goes with the vocals. Like I feel like you could cut and paste the vocals from any song and paste it into a different song, and they would still go in that other song.
Hmm.
All right.
There are good riffs, there are good moments, but I just didn't get a lot of entertainment out of it.
Yeah. So I am thoroughly entertained by this record. I agree with Adrian and Josh. Like for me, like 35 minutes, it's a super breeze to get through. I think part of the reason why the songs bleed together is because the way the vocals are sung, sometimes it's hard to understand what the lyrics are, so you can't even use the lyrics as a bench, like as a bookmark for knowing the song very well.
Yeah.
But the songs that I did kind of learn the choruses to over time, like I found myself being able to pick up as soon as those songs started. I knew what the song was, and just as I became more and more familiar with it, I enjoyed it. So for me, I was very entertained. 7 songs, 35 minutes. I thought it was great, and I'll just go right into top tracks for me. I think it's a very well put together track listing. Something I've been thinking about more and more as we're doing these reviews is track order. I think it's very well put together. My number 3 song is "Kill on Command," the very last song. I think it's an excellent song, excellent closer. Number 1 is the opening track, "Eternal Nightmare." I love that song pretty much from top to bottom. It's the longest song, or sorry, second longest song on the record. Feels good. Just feels good to start with that song. And my number 1 is "Bodies on Bodies." I love that song. That's a very, very solid song. And every time I got to it, I was like, I was doing the gang, like the "Bodies on Bodies." Like I was doing that every time. Like I pretty much learned that chorus pretty quick. But yeah, I like this a lot. I think the vocals are just an acquired taste, or for me at least.
Yeah, Jason, go ahead.
I only have one, and that's going to be the title track, "Eternal Nightmare."
Right on.
Fair enough. Adrian, go ahead.
I'll pop in. My number 3 is going to be "Calling in the Corner." I think that's a great one. Number 2 is going to be "Kill on Command." I think it's a great closer. And number 1 is going to be "Eternal Nightmare." I think it's a fantastic opener. Great fucking song.
Adrian, there's 7 tracks on this album, and you and I do not share one song.
Whoa. Yeah.
How funny is that? I got number 3 for me is "Bodies on Bodies." Number 2, TDS, "Take It As You Will." And number 1 for me, and this was like day one, first time I listened to it, dude, "Phobophobia."
That's a great song.
That's a banger, man. I love that.
I
song.
mean,
that
I
feels
don't
the most Rob Flynny to me, so maybe that's why I gravitate towards it. Maybe there's even a little bit of rap in there. But great song.
There's not a bad moment in this album, in my opinion.
No, this album is a breeze. Like it's like I listened to this while I was mowing the lawn. Like, dude, it was great. Like, just nonstop thrash. Again, I just feel like this album is, and I mean, I didn't grow up in the time, so I can't say this exactly. Just judging by what albums had already come out, I feel like this was just like 3 years late to the party. Like, yeah. If they'd have just come out just a little bit sooner.
Just put it like this: I was around nothing but metalheads at the time, but none of the people that I know of, and none of their relatives that I know of. Even the guy that was listening to Sepultura at 6 a.m. in the morning before going to school loud.
Sounds like a good guy.
Never heard of Vio-lence.
Mm. All right. Well, hey, let's move into audio production here. So like we talked about earlier, I apologize. I'm probably pronouncing this guy's name wrong, but it's John Cunaburti doing the production here. Hey, look, the album sounds pretty good. I mean, it sounds like a thrash band's first record. There's no frills. There's not a ton of true production value to it. I think this still sounds better than the original version that we heard of "Killing Is My Business."
By a lot.
Yeah, not like the final Kill version that we heard, way down the line, but I think still sounds better than $4,000 of "Killing Is My Business" for sure.
Yeah, I think the only benefit to this being released later on is the production benefited from it, because I think if this would have been produced in between 83 and 85, it would have sounded significantly worse. But I think by then most producers knew how to produce thrash metal in terms of a sound, and I think this album benefited from it. It sounds really good to me.
That sounds fine to me. Sounds like a product of its time, but I mean, it actually doesn't sound as bad as some of the other stuff that was out at that time. So I didn't have a problem with any of the production. I'm not a big fan of the bass tone. I like it more underneath and giving more power to the main riffs and stuff. But it was fine, and the bassist was good.
I don't really think there's anything notable here. It was fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, hey, we're going to move into the last category here. This is Legacy. So this is where we like to give a score for the album. And just to give everybody a frame of reference here, for a lot of folks, a lot of magazines and things you see out there, for them, an average score would be a 7. Well, for us, we've made our average score a 5. So anything that's below a 5 is something that we would not recommend. Anything 5 and above is various levels of recommend. And then anything that's between 9 and a 10 is just all-time legendary, like Masters of Reality type records, right? 9.8. So why don't we just go ahead and get started with the scores? I'll go first here. Look, for me, I know we've talked about the vocals a lot in here. I don't want to just keep like bleeding that dry. Look, for me, I gave this album a 7, and then I subtracted a point because the vocals are atrocious. So this is going to land on a 6 for me.
Josh, I'll pop in. Interestingly enough, I know we had different tracks, but my score is also a 6. For a lot of reasons. I think it's a good album, but ultimately, it's just kind of it's forgettable.
I'll jump.
Go
in.
ahead.
That way, Dave can give it a 10 to raise the score. There are good moments on this album. Plenty of good riffs. The music by itself is fantastic. If you removed the vocal track entirely, this would be a great soundtrack. But with vocals like this, I just cannot recommend this to anybody. I gave it a 4.2.
Oof.
All right, so that's a dumb score. So we can everybody in the comments can agree to that. So don't downvote this video because of his score, okay?
Light me up in the comments.
Let us know how wrong. Tell everybody how wrong Jason is. So look, I like this record, I guess, more than y'all, even though everybody seemed to praise it pretty heavily. Josh, you and I were pretty close in your original assessment. I came in at a 6.8. I think this my personal average on this channel is a 7, so I put it just under that, based on just some of the great albums that we've reviewed so far. But like, I think this, like, I could easily pop this in pretty much any day and just probably let it play from start to finish and be okay with that. Like to Adrian's point, it's not magical or legendary. Like, it's not, anything like that, but I think it's very, very good.
Yeah.
Hey, so you could pop it in, but would you pop it in?
Look, that's why it's a 6. That's why it's a 6.8, because there are lots of other things I would choose ahead of this.
Gotcha. Okay.
Now I did get on YouTube and I poked around a little bit of their last album, their third album, and there's a marked difference in the vocal style. It's still Sean Killian, but it's definitely attempting to be a little bit more sing style. So maybe the Human Fossil might find some more appreciation for that one. I heard a couple tracks. It sounded pretty good.
So their third album is supposed to be like easily their worst.
So let's just throw this out there. Is that graded by the fact that they have some kind of hardcore fandom that just wants the vocals to be a certain way?
I have no idea.
I think the band generally feels like it's their worst album as well. Like Rob Flynn's he's on record saying it's not a good record.
Yeah. Wow. He actually left like right after that was recorded. Like, they didn't even tour on it, from my knowledge. 5.75 is our average score. Again, keep in mind, our average is a 5. So this is above average. We recommend you listen to this record outside of Jason's score. So we liked it.
What is this? Is this a C minus?
5.75. Yeah, it's a C plus.
C plus. All right.
Okay.
Well, cool. Well, hey, hope you guys liked the review. If you did, give us a like, give us a subscribe. We're putting out weekly metal content. We got metal reactions, metal reviews. Sometimes we got metal time machines. Hey, and in the meantime, live long and prosper.
Take it easy, everybody.
See ya.
Later.